Hi there everybody. Today I'm going to teach you some kind of like expressions and phrases and some vocabulary about coronavirus. And some people say it's COVID-19. The expression COVID comes from the word corona. Okay, and coronavirus, COVID, and the 19 stands for 2019, which started last year in 2019. So that's why people called that virus coronavirus and COVID-19. This lesson is going to be about this virus, and for the people who study for Ielts and Toefl or some other tests or some other exams. I hope this video is going to be very helpful for these people, because when you take a test such as Ielts or Toefl, they're going to ask you some questions about the situations in your country, and they're going to ask you about some questions about the news on TV. So maybe you can use these words and you can use these expressions to express yourself and to get a higher grade from Ielts or Toefl test. As you know, because of this coronavirus, which started in China, in Wuhan, this city, last year, a couple of months ago, and it affected all around the world. Now we can see the results of this virus all around the world. So most of the people have to stay at home and they cannot go out. They have to isolate themselves because these are very critical days nowadays. So we have to stay home and we have to isolate ourselves, and we have to protect ourselves from this virus. So that means most of the people are at home, and sometimes they're spending their time with the social media, or they're watching the news, or they're dealing with something. Some people have hobbies, but some people don't. So even though most of the people have to work, they cannot go to work because of some restrictions of the government. So that's why they have to stay home. So today I'm gonna teach you some words about coronavirus, to talk about this issue. All right, the first word can be isolation. What does isolation mean? Isolate means to actually to become alone, actually, right? You have to be alone in a room or in a place, okay, to isolate yourself, and you have to cut your communication with the other people, so that you don't transmit that virus to others, or you don't get that virus from the others. So that means, like, isolation means to stay away from the people and to be alone. Isolation. So people are trying to isolate themselves nowadays, so because they have to protect they have to be very careful about their health. Right, and the other word for to talk about this issue might be transmission. Transmission means this virus is very effective. So people are affected because of this virus, because this virus transmits from one person to another. So when this virus goes from one person to another, it's called transmission. So it transfers to other people, so that means transmission. Okay, you can use this word when you talk about any kind of sickness all around the world, or any kind of situation. So that's a very, very useful word, I believe. And another word for this can be epidemic. Epidemic means kind of like, think about a kind of like sickness, and this sickness is transferring from one person to another. Goes from one person to another. It's called epidemic. Epidemic also means, like, I'm gonna say it in Turkish. It means salgın. Epidemic is a kind of like sickness which can pass, okay, one person through another, and it's only in an area. I mean, like in a city or in a country. But when it comes to affect like all around the world, okay, so if it's a kind of like worldwide situation, then we call it pandemic. So epidemic is a kind of like restricted area, but pandemic is all around the world. So pandemic is much bigger, but epidemic is a kind of like much smaller area. Also, another word means like if you are affected by this virus, how can you express yourself? You can say, I have the coronavirus, or I have COVID-19, or she has the coronavirus, or she has COVID-19. You can say she has coronavirus, or she has the coronavirus. All around the world, people are using this expression with the or without the. It's not a very big deal actually. Right, so I have the coronavirus, or I have COVID-19. You can express this sickness like that. If you have this, if you are living in another country, or if you need to express yourself that you have this virus, so you can say I have coronavirus to the doctors. Of course, if the doctors are speaking your language, it's much better to express yourself with your own language. But if you have to speak in English, so you can say I have the coronavirus, and people can do whatever it has to be, and then they can protect you in a hospital, and they can put you in a room, and then you can isolate yourself in this room and try to get better. Another word for this situation is symptoms. Okay, like what are the symptoms of this coronavirus? One of the most important symptom is high fever. Fever means like when you touch your forehead, it becomes like very, very hot, and you start to shake and tremble, and you start to get cold, very cold, and you have a high fever. And one of the most important and one of the first symptoms of this virus is high fever. So if you have high fever, you might have this coronavirus. You have to be very careful, and you have to wait to see other symptoms. After you have this fever, high fever, then you get cold, okay, and then you start to cough. And then it's another word which you can use to express this sickness, this pandemic actually. Coughing means like it means like you're coughing, okay? So when you cough, try to cover your mouth with your elbow, inside your elbow, like this. So when you're coughing, try to be careful and try to not to transmit this virus to other people around you. So it's another way of protecting yourself and other people from this virus. For fever, we can talk about another expression, another word, which is temperature. High temperature. Like you can say high temperature. I have high temperature. That means I have fever. Fever and high temperature, they have the same and similar meaning actually. For this virus, one of the other symptoms is that your body, your bones start to ache. Your body is aching. It means like my stomach is aching. Like I have some problems in my stomach, and it gives me some hard time. I don't feel well actually. So when your body starts to ache, and that means like this is one of the other symptoms actually. So this is a very dangerous situation as well. So far we have talked about some symptoms. The first one is high temperature, fever, and the second one is coughing, and the third one is body aching, and another symptom is having difficulties with breathing. Breathe means like this is breathing, right? So if you are having difficulties with breathing and you can hardly breathe, then that means it's a kind of like it's one of the symptoms of this pandemic. So if you have high temperature, if you have the fever, and if you don't feel yourself well and all your body is aching, and if you're coughing, if you're having difficulties with breathing, that means you might have all of the symptoms of this coronavirus. So you have to find yourself in a hospital, talking to a doctor or other people in the hospital so that they can help you. Right, so after people began to have this kind of problems, most of the governments in many countries decided to get some precautions to ban this virus. Banning means to stop this virus. So what did they do? They told people to stay home, to isolate themselves, and they told people to stay away from the others, to kind of like, it's a kind of like social distance, which means like 1 or 2 meters at least. There must be a social distance with other people around you. So that's what the governments say to people in their countries. In order to limit the transmission of the virus, we have to be very careful, and we have to keep that social distance with the other people around us. Otherwise means like if you don't do it, it means like otherwise we cannot finish this problem in our countries, and if we have these problems in our countries for like many months or maybe years, then it will cause so many economical problems, and there will be a lot of bad results. So that's why some people will be affected for these economical consequences. So that means some people will maybe lose their money, or maybe they will lose their job. So it will be a kind of like crisis in all around the world. So that's why I keep telling you it's very important to keep this social distance. And well, on the other hand, we are all at home, and now I'm in the garden of my building, and it's a very nice area actually. I'm quite isolated here because there are no other people around me, and I am the only person here. So I just want to take this advantage of this good weather. That's why I just came here and to take a video and to share it with you. During this quarantine, quarantine is a word which is known now for all around the world, with like all around the people in the world. So everybody knows what quarantine means. In this period of time, during your quarantine, you can do lots of things to make yourself feel good actually. Maybe you can start to learn something nice, maybe about computers, about drawing maybe, or you can start to play an instrument. You can do lots of things because people have a lot of time, so you have to evaluate this time. You will not be able to find this amount of time when all of these things over, and you will start to work, and maybe everybody is going to deal with their own job, so you will not find this kind of time. So that's why you need to evaluate this time and start to do something to improve your skills, to improve yourself. It's very important for you, because if you don't do anything, then you're gonna get bored, and you're gonna feel bad, and you're gonna just spend time on social media and watch what other people are doing. So you're not gonna feel happy. It's a kind of like time passing, but it's gonna give you some damage to your psychology. So that's why I'm telling you to start you have to get a hobby which you can pass your time very happily, and to improve yourself actually. Also, while we're spending time at home, and the people on the street and the people outside must obey the rules, because there are a lot of rules which are put forward by the government, so that people should follow and must follow actually. Because if we don't follow the rules, then if we break the rules, then this pandemic is not going to over. So it's going to affect all around the world. So most of the cities and towns, and maybe in some countries, the whole country is locked down. Lockdown means people cannot go out, so everybody must be at home, and unless they have something to do very, very important, and if they have something very important to do, then they must get some papers, some documents from the government, and they have to get that permission. Then they can go to the supermarket or in hospitals or pharmacies. And yeah, so it's another result of this coronavirus pandemic. So there are many rules which governments tell us, okay, to follow. Then we have to follow these rules and we mustn't go out. Right. Yeah, today we talked about coronavirus, and I gave you some expressions, some words. I hope this is a good lesson for you. And if you listen to this like many times, then if you try to speak, if you try to repeat some sentences which I make here, and to make yourself faster, I'm sure you'll be able to speak English very well in a short time, because the more you listen, the better you speak, and the more you hear, the better you speak. It's always like that. So I didn't want to speak Turkish in this video because most of the people were expecting me to give a high advanced level of English. So this is a kind of like advanced level of English. So I hope everybody likes it. And if you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and that means like push the like button. And if you're not subscribed already, then please subscribe my channel, because I want to improve my channel. I want to see lots of people on my channel. I'm trying to do something good here, so I want people to follow me and get advantage of these videos, right? Okay, that's all for today. See you in the next video.